And we're going to start tonight with Claire. Claire is amazing. She's a sound healer. She's a vocal artist. The voice work she does is also in service of helping others find their voice. So I think it's perfectly apropos that she should kick us off in the spirit of finding your authentic voice. Claire, we're excited to hear yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I asked for a story to come yesterday, and it did on a walk, and then I wrote it down this afternoon, so it's still breathing. So here it is. Once upon a time, there was a little girl. She was rather a unique little girl that people sometimes forgot to notice. This particular girl felt that she knew something that mattered, that she was meant to tell people, lots of people, and it lived deep, deep, deep in her belly. She knew that her one job in her little life was to communicate all the way through till it became a big life, until the end of her life. The thing was, she wasn't entirely sure how to deliver what she knew. It was a message. It was a message that had a rather unique feature, and that unique feature was the fact that it would change depending on who she was talking to. How she knew that it was the right message was that when she shared it, she felt fully alive and so free. Her eyes would widen, her heart would beat fast, and out would come the message. It made people stop in their tracks, even if they weren't sure why. What was the message? And where did the message live? Deep, deep, deep in her belly was a cavern, and in that cavern lived a very large monster who loved to come out and play with people who needed the oxygen of connection. He had to crawl up in order to reach the outside world, and he couldn't always make it. But why not? Sometimes he'd get as far as her throat, and then he'd just slide back down again. He just wouldn't come out, couldn't come out. But why not? Was he shy? She'd feel him moving, making his way from deep in the cavern, deep, 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 deeply buried inside her. Her face would flush as she felt the rumbling begin as the monster began to pull its way up the sides of his cavern, arrive at her throat, and then slide down again, becoming smaller as he went down and bigger each time he tried to come back up. Now the thing was, she knew what it would take for this deep rumbling monster to make it out into the world, but it was something that the grown-ups seemed ill-prepared to permit. And that was the silence. This little girl had a beautiful relationship with silence. Having been largely ignored for many of her young years, silence had kept her company. Her imagination could play with it. They went walking together, they slept together, they dreamed together, they wondered together. She wanted to share this friend with others, but the friend needed a certain kind of attention in order to want to be shared, and so there it was, the struggle. Sometimes there was even another voice within that very particular kind of tone, a rather nasty tone, and was quite insistent to tell her over and over that she really didn't have anything of importance to share. Not important enough to stop the adults from their very important talking. But she knew otherwise, for it must be said, she was not stupid. She knew very well that her monster mattered. And as much as the grown-ups around her had lost touch with the monsters that lived inside of their own caverns, hers was very much alive, and he needed company. Tired of waiting, one day her monster made it all the way to her lips and shouted out at the most unexpected moment, "Attention! Attention! My friends that live inside of you want to play. Let them come out to play." And the little girl added, "My silence needs you. Will you sit and wait with me? I have something I want to share with you, but I don't really know what it is until it arrives. And it can't arrive while you're still talking, could we sit together and wait a while?" Their monsters understood and made them all sit. And they sat, and they sat, and they sat. As her monster crawled out of the cavern, up the sides of the deep well, into the space where it was no longer safe, she knew that she was. Others started to open their mouths too, but only when their monsters were really ready to speak. And the silence filled the room with wisdom, punctuated by the sound of monsters playing happily together in the shadows.
Thank you, Claire. That's
It's
another thing for those of you who haven't been here often or recently. We move our hands so people can see what they can't hear. Particularly you, Claire.
tickling, and that's called The Monsters Speak. I forgot to tell you the title.
The monsters speak. Oh, so sweet.